Okay, let's do this. This is the time where I'm going to kill the music and say welcome. I'm also going to stop the screen share so that Tim, you and I can be spot lighted or spot lit. What is the proper conjugation of that?
I know. What is that one? I'll say lighted because it sounds better, but which means it's probably wrong.
Okay.
Musical.
Well, what are we going to do today? First of all, let me welcome everyone to this week's weekly briefing. It is Thursday, September 16th, as it says on my Mac. And this is that time during the week where we pause, we get together as a community, and we talk about what's going on, latest trend, something in the news, something relevant. But Tim, this topic is kind of interesting. We want to give people a preview of a piece of content that you and I have been working on for, well, I guess for years, honestly, inside RevThink, which is this idea of, wait a minute, a company, a creative firm, a studio has a beginning and an end, and there's this journey. So what's the context for what we're sharing here?
Yeah, I mean, actually, Joel, it's one of the very first pieces of content we ever made together. We did this at Catalyst at Promex. That's one of the very first things we ever did live. And it was really this audit we had done of creative companies and the growth that we saw them take place over many years. And there was interesting trends we would see, like how companies double and double and double again over a few years. So 500,000 to 1 million to 2 million to 4 million. But then something happens from 4 million to 8 million. It just doesn't have the same pattern. That's one of them. But the other one was the number of bodies that they were working with. And I felt like we worked against a trend that said the more bodies, the better. When we were saying, no, let's get smarter people doing the right kind of work instead of just a bunch of people doing any kind of work, and trying to find a roadmap for that. So, but more recently, Joel, I think was it yesterday that someone shared that photo with you, and that to me was of, hey, if someone's showing us a photo back, let's bring this thing forward and talk about it.
All right, so that's a good cue. So let me share a couple things. First of all, because I'll share that moment. But first, I wanted to give everyone a peek of, this is some of the content that we're working on developing. You can see here, I'm inside Rev Community, and we have this, like, wouldn't it be great to create some snackable content? And you can see here is Seasons of the Creative Firm, which is we're going to go through today. So this other stuff is, we'll say, in development and hopefully coming soon. But let's get into the content for today, because I know that Tim, the time is going to fly by pretty quickly. All right, can everyone see my screen? Okay, cool. So Tim, here was the moment that happened yesterday. So this is Seth and Allie at Consortium. They're a music composition company in LA, and I'm doing this call with them to help them kind of figure something out. And they're like, Joel, we haven't met you yet, but we're big believers in this. Like, we want this. And of course, what they were describing was this diagram we call Seasons of the Creative Firm, which describe how a company starts and then it grows through these seasons. And Tim, you and I thought, well, let's use today as the opportunity to actually walk everybody through this and explain this concept and just go over the basics, right, in the next 20-25 minutes.
Yeah, the thought is that if you were to talk to yourself from the future to now, like, what lessons would you have learned that you wish you knew today? And a lot of that has to do with, did you focus on the right priorities as you grew your business? Did you understand what you were getting into? Do you understand the leverage that you have and transitions within each of those stages? And there's also some difficulty. I feel like people get to a certain point and then they stall out. They don't realize what they need to pack in to the next stage if they want to go there next stage in order to be successful. So we've been able to take those ingredients, and this is where the 7 ingredients terminology comes from. But to take those ingredients and put them together in a certain geographic way or chronological way to recognize when those opportunities come up, because we want you to see your decisions in front of you instead of looking at regrets from your past.
Yeah, speaking of regrets, so here's the little backstory, because Tim, when I met you now 8 years ago or so, 9 years ago, I was in the final stages of my 20-year run at Impossible Pictures. And when I met you, I was like, dang it, I wish I had met you 7 years ago, because I'd been on this amazing 7-year run, but I didn't have a lot to show for it. And in fact, as I got to understand what was possible and what I missed out on, I had some regrets. So let me give people a quick peek, right? Because you'll look at my story and be like, that sounds amazing. Sure, I ran this really cool company, had about 25 people permanent on my team. We won awards. We had a cool, sexy space in downtown Denver, go Denver. And we did lots of really great work for big brands, which was all awesome. And at our peak, we were about $5 million a year. But here's the thing that I want people to notice is as that my company grew over the years, we do this. We look at this thing like an org chart. So when I started, here's me and my one animator, right? And then as we grow, we're changing our roles, we're adding people to our team. And I thought this was what the seasons were about. I thought I'm growing and I'm adding layers and I have producers and all this talent. And I think the discovery for me, Tim, was this moment when I realized, wait a minute, is there something different besides growth? And maybe is it this concept called maturity? And this is really, I think the shift in the thinking is forget about the size of your company and the body count or even the revenue. Are you maturing as you move through these seasons?
Yeah,
So,
if it was about number count, we'd say it called like levels of the creative firm instead of like seasons of it. The reality is that as you start doing the work that you want to do in your business, the real reason you got the business started, you thought, and is from the outsider, that it was all about what you produced. So you always just thought like, oh, this great firm, I would love to mimic what they're doing. I want to get a project like what they're doing. So we were copycats as we're doing it. And we thought it's always work begets new work. That's how we thought of it. So if you thought about that on scale, you would see, I just need a lot of really great projects. And maybe not all the projects I'm doing right now are I ditch these projects and go do something different. And we have this surface level idea of where and what the work really is. But the reality below the surface is actually a gigantic iceberg underneath the thing. And there's actually these operational mechanisms inside your business. There's production and a production method. Marketing and sales work together to create a sales strategy. Finance and operations complement that in order to scale and growth and invest in it. And of course, always the entrepreneurial edge and the creative edge, that even a creative business owner has to recognize what their creative limits are and know how to invest forward and grow their business. So all these pieces have to run together. And what a lot of business owners start feeling like is they're juggling a lot of plates. And they're basically dealing with these items only temporarily until the plate crashes. Then they spend a lot of effort to put the plate back on, instead of recognizing there's a systematic process to running the business. If you face the reality, you can keep those plates spinning.
So we have this nomenclature, this concept that we realize that, hey, any great firm is going to be successful by mastering these various 7 ingredients. But everyone here, we thought, wouldn't it be nice to give a quick primer, an overview of these 7 ingredients? So here's our context. Here are these seasons. So that's a little piece of paper that Ali was holding up, right? The seasons of the firm, you can see at the very bottom, there's a day where you launch. And yes, there's a day at the end where you'll exit. And Tim, you had a lot to say about that weeks ago.
Sure do.
that day will come. But in between there, these seasons are, we move through our startup, emerging, thriving, and mature. But there's another layer to this story here. Tim, you want to talk about the first one here, our blue box?
Yeah, and when you first start your business, you really are a creative person, and you hit the like entrepreneurial itch. So if you know the entrepreneurial formula, it's needs plus resources equals solution. And when you start a business, it's often somebody asks you, so the need asks you resource to do a job, and you do your first job. You might be a permalancer, you might just be a solopreneur at that point. You might have actually grabbed somebody you worked with and started your business. I know a lot of creative firms grabbed 2 other creative people and started a creative business. Of course, that means like building a house with only bricklayers. But we often just start our business with this creative need and recognizing someone asked me to do something, I have the ability, let's get it done.
And here's how it often feels when you're in this stage. If you're in this season, you'll be saying things like, man, I'm wearing way too many hats. what should I focus on? And how the heck do I delegate? And then something happens as you continue to evolve. And I'm not going to say necessarily grow because it's not a size thing always. And that is you start to introduce production. You start to master this ingredient production, because if you think about it, you're doing more projects. You have to deliver them on time, on budget, keep the clients happy, and figure out a way to actually make money despite this process, right? The clients want everything and you've got to figure out a way to manage it. And of course, this is where you start feeling this other itch, which leads to you to move into the next season. You start saying, I think we have a sales problem, right? Because we have this feast or famine cycle where we're really busy, we stop selling, and then we get slow, and so on, the cycle repeats. So what's next?
You can also say, like, mastering the production ingredient. Also, what you're doing is you've systematized the solution to the creative need that you recognize out there. And that systematizing that solution creates scale. So now you could say, I have a sales problem, meaning because it's now much more efficient, I can do more. How do I get more? Where it comes from? So we go and we say, how do I get there? So we often hire a rep, bring on a salesperson with wishful thinking that it'll just show up because it's our great work on our reel. And then someone making phone calls is all it takes. And that's not necessarily true. Remember, we're trying to master these ingredients. So what we recognize along the way is that there's a systematic process, just like you did in production, and you honestly do creatively, to go after sales. And that operations and routines and method that you are able to accomplish creates new opportunity. And then, of course, because you're gathering sales, you also start recognizing there might be a different way of dealing with the finances. So Joel, I know in your story, that's where some of the regret is like, there was a lot of opportunity to capture this huge revenue at $5 million, and that finance mechanism wasn't a place to capture it. It passed you by.
Yeah.
But why you want to capture that isn't just to collect it so you can hoard it, but it's that new resource, money, is something you invest back into your business to grow. And it takes this, the reason why we're talking about maturity is that we want you to learn and master each ingredient, and each of these ingredients take time. So when we master these 5, there's 2 new problems show up.
And here's the feeling when you're in this season. It's generally like we're swamped. How do we scale while producing even greater and more profitable work? So there's a lot coming at you. And then you start to enter this mature season. And Tim, these are these 2 sort of surprising ingredients that get tacked on in this season.
Yeah, marketing, it really now we know is the feeder to your sales, right? It's the moving from unaware to aware as a creative firm. And it's pre-selling, it's getting out there, positioning your company. And that positioning is so different with a mature company than when you were very, very beginning trying to mimic and match what someone else is doing. You are now that business, and you are the master that does this thing. You're known for that specialty that you have. And that marketing really establishes your place, gives you confidence and repeatability within your business. Super awesome. And then operations is this hidden secret that turns out was there all along. You have, and when you understand, you have operations in production operations, finance operations, sales operations, creative operations. All these are separate cogs that when they attach together, you can turn on a motor and the whole machine runs by itself. And that's the ultimate goal, especially in an exit. You want to know that you made something that has the ability to have perpetual gain and therefore an asset that you can exit with.
And here's the question that's often on the minds of owners in this season. This pace is blistering. How can my team run this company without depending upon me? And I think the answer to that question often puts someone in a position for an exit or some sort of transition, which is really exciting. Well, now let's get into, so here's this mature firm, right? You see all 7 of those ingredients, and you now have this notion of how these things add and stack over time as you evolve and mature. Now let's actually step through each of these ingredients, because here's the meat of this presentation. Is if we were going to walk you through these seasons, here's the big meta, the big takeaway that we want you to walk away with, is you're on this journey from being essentially an order taker when you're in a startup to moving to being an expert firm. And for the rest of the talk here, let's actually go through what does it look like in each of those ingredients. So in the creative ingredient, I'll take this one first, Tim.
Sure.
How do we define creative? What do we even mean by that? Well, in a nutshell, it's our expertise and the results it creates. And as you move through these seasons from startup to mature, you're on this journey where you probably start with this thought: we're just going to do good work and the rest will come. And you're making your way to a place where in the future, your expertise is highly sought after. So your creativity is something that people are seeking you out for, and that it's obviously very, very valuable. So that's the creative ingredient. Let's go through one more. Tim?
Sure, the entrepreneurial ingredient. So the entrepreneurial ingredient is, again, we're trying to master this ingredient. And master that ingredient means you're being able to create future through calculated bets. It's this understanding that the needs plus resource equal solutions are possibly strategic things you can grow along the way. One, you master your resources, but eventually you can also master those needs and create needs for your services. When you start off in your company, you might be thinking this: we provide a service in search of a need. So you have this almost pick me kind of thought process there. But a mature firm knows this: we know how to create the needs for the clients.
Yep. And then production. This is you too, Tim.
Sure. Production. I love production because it's really the first ingredient that you're working with, that you start recognizing that there's a repeatable effort you can put in and get better and better results. So in production, it's managing those resources to maximize creative clients and cash. So you can see there that production has the opportunity for efficiency. It also sets limits on time, on budget. That's the goal. So at the very beginning, especially if you're a creative business owner, you might be asking the question, well, what is a producer? What is the role? How do they work? And that's like producer boot camp is why we're talking about that. As we emerge, what we recognize is the deliverable is projects are on time and are on budget. But a mature firm knows this: we are producing our best work with bulletproof profits. We actually can guarantee a return to our clients and a return back to our company. And mastering that ingredient gives you that security to grow, keep on investing, and grow again.
All right, in sales, I'll take this one. I like to define sales as sharing expertise and building trust to win opportunities. Now, in the early stages of your business, you're going to say things like, we work with budgets large and small. That sounds so nice and safe. And yeah. And as you grow and evolve, you're going to start saying things like, well, we just kind of want everything, right? So we do that and we do that and we do that. Hey, pick us. But you're ultimately going to arrive at a place where, here it is, our expertise is highly sought after. So there's this narrowing and value and expertise that comes in sales. Now, close cousin to sales. Oh, sorry, I thought we were going to marketing. Tim, this is you.
That's cool.
Give us the finance.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, because when you start gaining on sales, you're actually starting to recognize ROI. You're starting to recognize opportunity, and you have this new resource of cash. And if we're just giving it away to our clients or not managing it, especially on a cash flow basis, we can feel desperate over and over again. So finance, as we define it, is leveraging visibility to make decisions and investment. And I think that visibility is the key. It's not a number situation. It's being able to look forward and forecasting. The issue that we have when we start a business is we only just really ask what our current checking account balance is. What's my current balance? And you probably are turning in at 3 a.m., checking that balance to make sure there's money in it for tomorrow's bills. This is what started RevThink. Someone asked me, where did all my money go? And that was a company that could recognize they had a bookkeeper and a P&L, but they still didn't understand where all their decisions were being made. But an expert firm knows this. They say, that's your cue, Joel.
Oh,
yeah. What should I do with all this money? What they're looking at is like they can see the decisions that are available in front of them, that visibility. And something like the factors method, would you put all those decisions out in front of you and project them forward, knowing that that's a possible future, and create that future through financial decisions. Here's your favorite.
Here's my go. All right, marketing. Everyone knows I'm a nut about the positioning and messaging and all that stuff. So marketing, we're going to define as creating curiosity, which leads to conversations inside the context of a creative firm. Now, when you're starting out, you probably think, well, marketing, yeah, we just need a website that describes our services. That's what marketing is. But the destination that you're heading towards is one, on the way there, you're going to recognize we're not just a creative firm, we are okay, we are the one and only. So there's this uniqueness. And then you ultimately arrive at this place where we're known as the category creator. So think of some of the greatest firms that we all celebrate, and they are known for creating a certain category. And that's a very powerful place to arrive.
It's such a powerful place. Last night, my kid shared with me a link. Imaginary Forces were celebrating their 25th anniversary in business. And I see Ryan Summers on here. He might be enlisted there, but they listed all the people that made up Imaginary Forces on the way. So my kid scrolled through to find my name. But think about like just the legacy of being that category creator. And when you're first to play, you're the one that's known for something, the repeatable factor there. And again, you're looking for now opportunity and security because you can repeat it over and over again. You're actually growing a machine. And this is where operations come into place. Operations really is the oil between the gears that makes everything run together. It's kind of the mortar to the bricks. And you have these separate parts that have different needs and requirements within them, but they're all working towards a common goal. Operations is one that can synchronize them from piece to piece and know that one item and one effect has a long-term effect on something else. So at the very beginning, you're totally asking yourself questions. What is operations? And Joel, this might even be like in the thriving stage. You know, like it's a mature person that even recognizes what operations is. It's not a term we use when we're first starting our business.
Yeah.
But as your business evolves and grows, we start getting to the point where we just want everything to work. So this is saying everything is working, but sometimes we just feel like, can't this just work? We ask that question. What's it take to make this thing work? And you're asking operations question. So a mature firm says this: we perform well at both scale and speed. And I think that's what we're looking for. It's not just efficiency in numbers or efficiency in deliverables, or even understanding how to run a larger group of people, but it's to be able to make decisions at a faster pace. And that quick decision making allows for greater and greater opportunities and more gain for your company. That's how you get to a mature firm. Eventually being able to hand off those decisions to even other managers, resource people, maybe an acquisition deal.
Okay, so we'll do a little recap here because just trying to net it out for those of us with creative brains. The takeaways, when we went through each of those 7 ingredients, here's ultimately the path, right? In the creative ingredient, it's expertise highly sought after. Entrepreneurship, creating the needs and the clients. In production, producing the best work with bulletproof profits. Sales, expertise is highly sought after. By the way, that's redundant. We got to fix that, Tim. Finance, visibility for decision-making. Marketing, creating the category. And lastly, operations, performing at both scale and speed. So when you think about your business, I think the big idea here is, what would it look like as you move forward to be going in this kind of a direction? And do you desire that? Is that exciting to you? Does that sound like something you might want to do with the rest of your life? I think that's the question we're trying to answer here, Tim.
Yeah, one of the things that we recognized early on is that a lot of entrepreneurs, especially creative entrepreneurs, they know where they want to go. So they have a destination and they have a compass. They know the direction and way they want to do it. But what they're missing is the roadmap. And what I love about this breaking down the roadmap into the 7 ingredients is now you can really truly identify what each mission is, each separate mission is, eventually wrapping it all together in operations. But just keep in mind, the idea is to master each of these. So mastering it, just like, for example, isn't hiring a salesperson saying, well, you're the expert, I'll let go, and you decide it. As an entrepreneur, you need to understand, what are your needs from my creative? What are my needs from finance? What are my needs from marketing? And then making that machine work so that marketing works. And therefore it grows your business, gives you more security, less effort, greater scale, and better exit.
So that's the gist of our chat today. I know it's very conceptual. We do have like 4 minutes left here. So if someone has a comment or a question, of course, happy to jump into that. But it's, let's see here. Ryan has this comment here to everyone. I just missed this. So the mention of mature marketing reminds me of looking at Buck's site yesterday versus 4 to 5 years ago. Yeah, how do you mean, Ryan? What are you observing there?
I mean, we talked about it a while ago, but Buck used to be like advertising everything about, we make beautiful animation, animate whatever you got, we'll animate it. And if you look at their site now, you literally can't find the word animation or even motion design on their site. And I've talked to a couple people at Buck, and that is absolutely like premeditated. Like there's a very different kind of like look and feel towards that. I don't think most animation studios would not say animation. Motion design studios would not say motion design on their sites somewhere.
Right.
Yeah, moving from the commodity, right, of like the work and services I provide you, so that menu, or we say order take at the beginning of our presentation, to a value-based proposition, developing strategy or providing vision for a brand or a client that they might not understand without your expertise. So it's them and their idea plus you making something better. Imagine providing that. Like the value there is incredible. And of course, it trickles down. There are people and things you still have to do, but not asking the idea to compete in a marketplace where you already win is pretty awesome.
Now, here's a thought for you too, Ryan, because I often, especially within Jumpstart, when we get into positioning stuff and people are trying to sort that out, they will often point to a Buck and say, well, see, they don't have this really unique, original, amazing language. And I say to them, yeah, because they're Buck. Right?
Yeah, right.
Like if you look at their journey back when they were in the emerging season, oh, they were communicating quite well about their uniqueness and their angle and their point of view and everything. But they've arrived at this very luxurious position where they own the category. They really don't have to say a lot. They can basically say, hey, what is it? Art, design, and technology or something like that. And,
right.
and everybody knows, yeah, it's Buck. Like you could even take the tagline off and you still know it's Buck, just like Coke. You don't need to tell me what Coke is. They carved out that category. We know what Coca-Cola is. So don't look at them as the example of how you should be positioning.
I mean, Coca-Cola's happiness, right? Like they own happiness. How great of a category do you need than that?
Yeah.
One day I'd love to hear you guys talk a little bit about how to manage that at that stage, the external marketing and kind of brand that you're positioning outside versus internally to your own employees. Because I do think that maturity does create a lot of friction for the people inside that might have wanted to ride the train Buck used to be on. They're working there, but that's not where the train's heading. It's
Ryan, the real trick is you just do IP scanning. And if someone's Googling from inside the business, you send them to one website and everyone else gets the other one.
There you go. Yeah, let's do that. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Stephen, if you want to visit Buck, just go to, it's buck.tv, right, Ryan?
Yeah.
Yeah. And do the search to look and see if you can find animation somewhere inside. Maybe it's buried in an old jobs like actual description and it snuck by, but it's really hard to find it.
So if each of us that runs a creative firm gets to that place where we have 200 or 300 people working for us and we don't really need to tell the world exactly who we are and what we do anymore, I would just simply say, congratulations. You've graduated to the realm of who cares what your positioning is. You're Buck.
Yeah, you're Buck. That is your position.
Yeah, you're done. You're done. Well, great, Tim. We're actually at the bottom of our half hour here, so I'm gonna try and wrap us up here. And I want to say thanks to the folks that jumped in. Of course, I'm excited to drop this chat today into Rev Community where people can start absorbing this and we can refer back to it as we go, because there's definitely a lot of people I think that will enjoy this broad perspective. So thanks for being part of this today, Tim.
Yeah, it was awesome. And truly, I think you guys could tell, like it's some of the first stuff we've ever learned, but it's something we can never get enough of, because it's such a fiber behind everything that we're doing, a lot of processing we have going on, and we know that you're up against it. So we appreciate you being part of this. We do exist so that you thrive in business life and career. So we want to do whatever we can to put that forward. Ryan, thanks for the suggestions and everyone for being here. We appreciate you guys.
All right, everyone. We'll see you in the community, and we'll see you back again next week for another weekly briefing. Until then, keep up the great work.
Bye.